Sometimes, the most profound transformations come from the smallest sparks. I remember the day clearly. I was sitting in silence, my thoughts wandering endlessly, searching for meaning in books, teachers, and endless theories. Then an old mentor leaned in and said slowly and deliberately, "You are not your thoughts." At first I brushed it off. How could I not be my thoughts? They felt so personal, so me. But something in his tone and the stillness of the moment pierced through my mental noise. That night, I couldn't sleep. The words echoed, challenging everything I believed about identity. The next morning I began researching the nature of consciousness, neuroscience, meditation studies, and ancient philosophies. Scientists confirm that most of our thoughts are automatic patterns shaped by past experiences, not conscious choices. Realizing this means you can step outside them, observe them, and choose which ones to feed. That single sentence cracked open a door I didn't know existed. The realization that I was not my thoughts felt liberating, but also unsettling. If I wasn't my thoughts, then who was I? This question became my obsession. I dove into mindfulness practices, starting with simple observation. For 5 minutes each morning, I would sit in stillness and watch the stream of my thoughts without trying to change them. At first it was chaos, memories, worries, random images, all fighting for my attention. But over time, something shifted. I began to notice the tiny gap between a thought arising and my reaction to it. Neuroscientists call this meta-awareness, the ability to recognize a mental event without being swept away by it. Ancient Buddhist teachings describe it as resting in the witness. In that gap, you have power, the power to choose whether to engage with the thought or let it pass. It's like standing on the shore and watching waves instead of being pulled into the ocean. This practice became my anchor. As I strengthened this awareness, I started experimenting with cognitive reframing, a technique from psychology that teaches you to reinterpret situations in a way that reduces stress and opens new perspectives. For example, instead of thinking, "I failed," I would reframe it as, "I learned what doesn't work." This simple shift changed the emotional weight of my experiences. Studies in neuroplasticity show that our brains physically rewire based on repeated thought patterns. By choosing empowering interpretations, I was literally reshaping my neural pathways. Ancient Stoic philosophers like Epictetus taught the same principle. It's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Combining this ancient wisdom with modern science gave me a toolkit for emotional resilience. Every time a negative thought appeared, I would pause, observe, and consciously choose a perspective that aligned with growth rather than fear. Over weeks, I noticed my baseline mood lifting, and life's challenges became opportunities rather than threats. If these insights are opening new doors for you, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell so you won't miss the next steps on this journey. The more I practiced, the more I realized that awareness without action was incomplete. Observing thoughts was the first step, but directing them intentionally was the next. I began incorporating visualization, a scientifically supported method used by athletes and high performers to prime the brain for success. Every morning after my mindfulness session, I would vividly imagine the person I wanted to become, not just what I would do, but how I would feel, speak, and carry myself. Functional MRI studies show that imagining an action activates many of the same brain regions as performing it. This means that mental rehearsal literally prepares your nervous system for real-life execution. Ancient yogic texts describe this as sankalpa, a heartfelt intention that shapes reality. By combining visualization with daily micro-actions, I started aligning my external life with my internal vision. It wasn't magic. It was the disciplined application of focus, emotion, and repetition, the true alchemy of transformation. As my practice deepened, I noticed an unexpected side effect. My relationship with discomfort changed. Situations that once triggered anxiety or frustration became opportunities to test my new mental tools. Instead of resisting discomfort, I leaned into it, observing the sensations without labeling them as bad. Research in effective neuroscience shows that when we stop fighting negative emotions and instead approach them with curiosity, their intensity decreases. This mirrors the ancient Zen teaching, "Let thoughts and feelings pass like clouds in the sky." I started applying this to everyday life. A difficult conversation, a long wait in traffic, an unexpected setback. Each time I would silently repeat, "This too is part of the path." Over time, the boundary between good and bad experiences blurred. Life became less about controlling circumstances and more about mastering my inner response. That shift created a deeper sense of freedom than I had ever known before. The breakthrough came when I realized that the sentence, "You are not your thoughts," was not just a reminder. It was an invitation. An invitation to step into the role of the conscious creator of my life. Modern behavioral science calls this response flexibility, the ability to pause between stimulus and response to choose an intentional action. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, famously said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." By practicing mindfulness, reframing, visualization, and embracing discomfort, I was training that space to expand. The more it expanded, the less reactive and more deliberate I became. I understood that life wasn't something happening to me, it was something happening through me. And in that shift, every moment, even the mundane, became a canvas for conscious living. With this awareness, my daily life transformed into a continuous practice ground. Conversations became opportunities to listen more deeply. Challenges at work turned into experiments in patience. Even moments of boredom revealed subtle layers of presence I had never noticed before. Neuroscientific studies on mindfulness show that consistent practice not only changes brain activity, but can increase gray matter density in regions linked to emotional regulation and empathy. Ancient wisdom had been saying this for centuries, that the mind, like the body, grows stronger with training. I realized that the sentence which began this journey was like a seed. At first, it seemed small and insignificant, but given attention and care, it grew roots into every part of my life. The greatest shift was internal, a sense of calm that wasn't dependent on external circumstances. I no longer chased peace. I carried it with me. Looking back, I understand now why that one sentence carried so much weight. It wasn't just wisdom passed from a teacher. It was a mirror, reflecting the part of me that had always been free, but forgotten. We often search for transformation in grand events or complex teachings, yet sometimes it arrives as a quiet whisper that changes everything. If you take anything from my story, let it be this. Question the voice in your head because it is not you. Observe it, learn from it, and choose which thoughts deserve your energy. Try the practices I shared: mindfulness, reframing, visualization, embracing discomfort, not as theories, but as daily experiments. You may discover that freedom is not a distant goal, but a skill you cultivate. And if this perspective resonates with you, stay connected. There are many more journeys, many more keys waiting to be found, and perhaps the next sentence you hear will be your turning point. If you are not your thoughts, then who is the you that has been living your entire life?